Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Artsbeat Radio and TV here on 89.5 FM WSKB and Westville Community Programming Channel 15 on Comcast. I'm Mark Auerbach. Patrick Berry is my co-host today. And since this is our last program before Christmas, what better way to spend it than at Hartford Stage, where a Christmas Carol is currently running. And it's a real honor today to meet the two new leaders of Hartford Stage, Melia Ben-Susan and Cynthia Ryder, who both joined the team this season. And first of all, welcome to
Congratulations.
Hartford.
Thank you.
Thrilled to be here.
How's
great.
it gone so far? I mean, you arrived, a season's up and running. Did you know anything about Hartford Stage before you either applied or asked to join the theater?
Oh, definitely. Hartford Stage is well known all across the country. And the time that I spent earlier in my life in New York and Boston, it was certainly one of the great professional regional theaters that, like many regional theaters, started in the 60s and has a long and storied career, history.
Right.
So was thrilled when I learned of the possibility of working here.
And I've worked here a few times. This was my first professional gig, in a sense, was working here as an intern. I was part of a program that's still thriving called the Drama League Directors Program. And I was an assistant director here under Mark Lamos's leadership.
Wow.
So, and then I directed here when Michael Wilson was artistic director. So it's really, I was incredibly honored to be contacted. I've been, my search culminated before Cynthia's. So even though we started together this summer, I had the advantage of being around in the spring a bit. I was working elsewhere, but I was coming back and forth. So I had a little bit of a sense of this theater and of Hartford in this moment.
Now, did you two know each other prior to getting here?
Unbelievably not.
We did not. The board did some matchmaking.
Yeah.
But the more we get to know each other, the more we realized how our worlds have been running in parallel lines or almost connecting.
Yeah.
So funny.
Theaters that she worked at, that I then worked at.
Friends in common.
Lots of mutual artists that we've worked with, friends. Our
That
kids
is
are the
funny.
same ages, so a lot
It's-
of.
it's
We
a
feel
great
like
match.
we've known each other a long time.
You both have unique backgrounds, and it's interesting, you know, where you grew up or prior, before you were in the theater, what you did prior to that. It's
Right.
it's interesting how you got into the world, you know, or into the theater world. So Mexico City,
Right.
you know, to Hartford. It just.
Right.
Your geography is, you just follow the dots, I
Right.
guess.
And I think what's wonderful about both our backgrounds, and I'm happy to talk about my journey from Mexico City to Hartford, which a common journey, I'm sure. Although, given our Latino community, actually not so rare.
Right.
But I feel like our backgrounds are a wonderful yin and yang with each other in terms of how we've both come to the theater and to this community, to the communities we've engaged with, and to the practice that we both believe in of making theater. So
Yeah, and I think one of the advantages of being the ages that we are is sometimes, you know, if I talk to people about their careers, you can be at certain points in your life and you feel like, this is so not what I was doing before. Why am I doing this or what? But then as you get older, I can look back at all the different things that I've done and go, oh yeah, all of those things
Sort of
are actually
on that same path.
Oh,
right,
my God,
or
yes.
if not on a path, it creates a kind of puzzle picture, right, of I did this and learned this,
Right.
and I am now utilizing that in this way. That it's not a straight career path that builds like this. You
Sorry.
have to, you do this
Right.
thing in Boston and you learn all about that. You do this thing in Kansas City for me and learn about this. You go to the West Coast, and that then creates a full person and a full career that you don't always see when you're 38 years old,
Right.
right? Or
Exactly.
certainly not when you're 28 years old
Right.
and you think you're supposed to have your whole life figured out. You don't know how what you're doing may be called into service later. And I think that both of us have enough experience that we feel like this is the place where we're going to use all of those things and hopefully be of benefit to this theater and to this community.
Yeah, it's funny you say that
It's the
because
perfect way to put it. That's just how I feel about my Spanish, my teaching, my theater freelancing. It's all, this is the job and the city and the time where it all comes together to make sense.
And I say that to my daughters. I go, you know, embrace what you're doing now. Go in at both full feet. It may not be where you're going to be at 48
That's
or 50,
right.
you know, but do it hard, do it well. And right now, because you don't know how that piece is going to play later in life. You have no idea. I mean, look at all of our paths. We're all,
That's right.
taken a strange and circuitous
Right.
way to get to where we are today.
We think that makes for a richer and fuller life, and I think you can make analogies in the theater that we're not going to do the same play over and over again, right? Usually, Christmas Carol is this really special thing that you can go to and revisit, and you're a different person every year. I know when I come to see it, there's some years that the message of mercy feels very important to me. There's some years when the message of what it means to be lonely and without a family and the desire to reconnect. And sometimes when the issues of social justice that Dickens was struggling with around ignorance and want. But there's the same thing of in an audience. We want a lot of different people in this audience. The more diverse, the more varied, the richer the experience, because people are bringing lots of different things. As simple as, what do you find funny? That creates more laughter that someone else might, but also just someone else's experience of who you're sitting next to when you see a story.
Becomes a little infectious.
Changes that story.
That's the pleasure of live theater, right?
So live theater really has that advantage. So we try to think about all those things when we're creating a season, a performance, a run of a show.
So what is the season at Hartford Stage? What are the months or dates? What is a season?
So our season runs pretty much like the academic calendar, say. Sort of you're basically start paying attention the week before Labor Day. Make sure you get your season subscription through, and then the productions run till early June. And then we often, and this year we have a great added production in June.
That's right.
A new comedy that is a history of comedy by the Reduced Shakespeare Company folks. That'll be a sort of bonus to our season. Very, very funny. 3 performers who do a very, what should I say? It's not, it's respectful, but very tongue-in-cheek history of comedy performances.
Very
from
good.
The beginning of time. So that's great. So that kind of, but you're seeing 6 plays plus Christmas Carol plus the bonus of a production in June. And when you ask what makes a season, I mean, this is part of the joy of these positions, is for us to build together a story for our communities. That it's not any one play that is going to communicate what this theater needs to do. It's the combination of this entire season. It's coming from beginning to end to see each of these pieces and how they communicate, relate to each other. We have ahead after Christmas Carol, we have Pike Street, an extraordinary one-woman show where this brilliant performer, Nilaja Sun, channels 30 to 40 characters and voices. Then we have a new adaptation of Jane Eyre. Then we have King's Speech, directed by Michael Wilson, right? One of my great predecessors. And then we have a new take on O'Neill's only and great comedy called Our Wilderness. So you really, and then the Reduced Shakespeare Company doing History of Comedy abridged. And what you want to experience is how all those plays talk to each other and how an audience changes as they view all those works. So we're looking for a variety in this season.
When you got here, when you started in your positions, was this season set?
So 2/3 of this season was set when I took the job in January. And then in consultation with artistic staff and with Darko, we talked about 2 missing slots. We made 1 change within the established slots, but pretty much, so it's really, this season is truly an act of collaboration between Darko and myself and our artistic staff. And then Cynthia.
When I came, it was all picked.
It was picked, but she said the best thing.
Yeah, when I was a candidate for the job, they announced the season. And when I saw that they added All Wilderness
Which
to the
is
season,
something that I added to direct.
Amelia was directing and had a hand in picking, I was sure then that this was the artistic director I wanted to work with, because I love that play.
So that was very lucky.
I've never seen it produced on stage. Eugene O'Neill, many people know. Of course, he's a Connecticut playwright, but he's known for his very brutal autobiographical plays that I think show a lot about the human spirit, but it's not necessarily the most positive side of the human spirit, but the humanity in those plays is so palpable. But this is the humanity of the plays of kind of our better selves.
It's
I
his
think.
dream play almost
Yeah.
of what he dreams his family can be.
Of what a
and
family
the
can be,
joy, and that for me felt like a wonderful way to end my almost first season, if you will, as I look ahead.
Yeah.
That it's a work full of theatricality and community and a sense of aspiring to be our best selves.
How long in advance do you plan the season? I'm sure that the season opener, the Quixote Nuevo, because it was a collaboration between several regional theaters, had to have been planned in advance.
So that was very lucky for me, because Quixote Nuevo was my other pick of this season. I have a long affiliation with the Huntington Theater Company, who was, one of our co-producers on that. And I am a big fan of Octavio Solis's writing and of KJ as a director. When I got appointed in January, one of my first calls on the QT was to my friends at the Huntington. And I said, we need a couple more things in our season. What are you guys doing?
And where's
What could
Huntington
we
located?
share?
Huntington is in Boston.
Okay.
So I have basically, while being department chair at Emerson College, at the Performing Arts Department, where I was right before this, I also did my professional home was really the Huntington Theater.
Gotcha.
So I'm actually about to start rehearsals there for a show that'll happen next month. So we continue these collaborations. But the Quixote Nuevo felt, when I heard that they were doing that, I said, oh, that's perfect. That is the energy that we need for a season opener. It really speaks to a side of Hartford and this region's life. It's a contemporary voice. It's a theatrical landscape. It's just a lot of things that we both value in the theater. I mean, I think the key with live theater right now is we have to distinguish ourselves from other media.
Absolutely.
Because there's too much good stuff to watch. I know. My watch list for all grows.
You're not
I'm not even
alone.
going to mention it. I'm not selling that. But you come to the theater for a kind of performance that you don't get off the small screens or even the large screen. That sense of breathing with your audience, breathing with a performer, live music. I mean, all.
It's funny, Mark and I have had this conversation countless times about how downtown, small town, even communities like Hartford, the economy in the towns are changing. I mean, we remember the large department stores that used to be down here. They're gone, and retail is not what it once was. So what is the new economy? And the new economy is live entertainment, no matter what it is. It could be, a sporting event over here at the Hartford Civic Center, could be a stage performance here, but those are the things that draw people. And it's different.
Crucial to a downtown. It's crucial.
You hit the nail on the head earlier. It's a feeling you get live and in person that you just can't get from a small screen.
That's right. And I think that that's part of the value of Hartford Stage, that we want this to be a real contributor to the cultural life of the region, but also to the economic life of the region. We build the shows here. Audiences actually come here. There's nothing like a night when the Yard Goats are playing and we're playing and Theater Works and the Bushnell, right? And the Xfinity Hall. Thousands of people
the restaurants
are downtown.
benefit, the bars, exactly.
Everybody. And if you just work downtown, when I come out of my office and I see something at Christ Church Cathedral and I see people going to the ball game, that sense of pride in the city, even if I don't go to every baseball game or every whatever, I'm really proud that it's here, and we want Hartford Stage to be part of everybody's landscape, whether you see every show 2 or 3 times or whether you come a couple times a year with your family, that there is a contribution to the economic life of the city, that the arts, not just us, the Wadsworth Theater, all the downtown organizations.
We're crucial to the health of the city, right? And there are so few places now to come together with other people. Right? I mean, organized religion is not
what it once was.
Right?
Exactly.
I mean, the whole idea of bowling alone, right? We don't bowl in leagues. We bowl by ourselves. We do everything by ourselves to a greater degree. We're very excited to make this building, which everyone should come be in with us, to make the lobby and the theater a welcoming place for
Community
everyone in
space,
Hartford.
absolutely.
It's community space, so we really welcome opportunities to use it that way.
We've learned in Western Massachusetts, being sandwiched between the city of Springfield, which is larger than Hartford but does not have the cultural cachet, and the Berkshires, which used to be a summer destination for the arts, which
Right.
is now really year-round.
Right.
That the more cultural things that take place, the more creative industry people, actors,
That's right.
directors,
That's right.
designers want to live in the area, and the area antes up. And it certainly happened for us in Western Massachusetts, and I would assume for Hartford, between the Bushnell and Hartford Stage and Theater Works and the other things, it makes Hartford a better place to live.
I think so, and we're seeing, more and more young people moving to the city. So part of our goal with babysitting initiatives and bilingual Spanish-English initiatives is to really create much more of a sense of civic engagement for
And
this
there is a large Spanish-speaking population in the greater Hartford area.
It's 47%,
Exactly,
I believe,
yeah.
the last
Which is
statistics I
amazing.
looked- Which is amazing.
It's a whole, as you know, it's a whole separate culture.
Well, we have many different cultures, right? Because I grew up in Mexico City, and the Mexican piece in the city is less dominant than Puerto Rican or Dominican, right? When we talk about a Latinx community, we're really talking about a number
Right.
of
Huge number of
different cultures that are in interplay. But it's thrilling. I mean, the amount. I mean, and it ranges on a whole economic scale, and it ranges on a literacy scale, just like an Anglo audience. You really have a range of folks that should have a sense of belonging here at Hartford.
So as you plan the 2020, 2021 season
Yeah.
and out in
we're
the next
in.
few,
Which
right,
we're doing now.
the
Right
next
now.
few years, do you start to target some of those Spanish-speaking or communities that may not be regular theater goers to get them to come out and experience the
Yeah.
wonder of a stage performance?
We need to target all of the people in this region to make sure that this theater continues its legacy of artistic excellence and national stature and civic responsibility, right? So you're absolutely right that in picking our season, we're looking at a variety in aesthetics, a variety in cultures, a variety in theatrical styles, right? I mean, we have, I love Shakespeare. I'm eager to direct a Shakespeare here, as well as how much I love Quijote Nuevo and the notion of getting more American playwrights of varied backgrounds, right? Quijote Nuevo to me was a great new American play, that it comes from a Chicano perspective, just makes it even more American and to my sensibilities. So how do we make sure we have African American, Latinx American voices? How do we, the richness of Asian theater practice? I mean, Indian theater practice. There's so many cultures that we hope as we plan 3 to 5 seasons out, which I so appreciate the question, because it is sort of going, well, next year we have the opportunity because this playwright has pitched this, or because this actor is interested, or because an artist, a director, a designer, or someone on our staff has a hunger to do a certain play.
Yep.
We're always balancing all those
Very
things.
good.
In the last few seasons, there have been several shows that originated at Hartford Stage that moved on, Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder, Anastasia, and hopefully the Engagement Party, which opened the new year
Yes.
here. Are you looking to produce plays that might be taken elsewhere, or is it more important to serve the community here first?
I think it's, for now, it's the community first, and I think artistic excellence and dialogue with community are the priorities, those things hand in glove. I think the New York piece, Gentleman's Guide, if you actually look at the history, was a fluke. There was no, the planning of it going to New York was not so much, it's Darko's brilliance that it was as successful as it was, but it happened that a New York Times critic came and loved it. But that wasn't the reason that show was produced. It was produced because this was one of Darko's projects that he was passionate about, and he did a brilliant job on it. And then it happened in the way that, theater gods work, that a critic came and loved it. Now, there's so many happy accidents that make that happen, that to gamble on a commercial New York venture, which is really what you're talking about, because we also have tremendous success like the commissioning of The Inheritance, which is a Hartford stage commission, even though it's not a production. And the second stage play,
Make Believe.
Make Believe. I want to say Magic Time.
Same idea.
Bess Wohl's great play, Make Believe, which was opened here, and then a different production made the best of 2019 lists off Broadway. So our relationship to New York is not simply do we do a commercial transfer, as in those two, which if it happened, that'd be wonderful.
But you're very, excuse me, you're very lucky, not only geographically close proximity to New York, you have a history of great performances on these stages,
That's right.
which I think
That's
opens
what
the
matters.
eyes of people in New York to say, we got to pay attention to what goes on here.
And that's the perfect way to put it, because
Yes.
we want to quote Arthur Miller, right? Attention must be paid.
Exactly.
It's the end of Death of a Salesman. It's not a happy line in that context.
Right.
So,
But in this
forgive
sense
me,
it
but
is.
in this sense, that we're doing excellent work, and that people from around the country should come. But we're doing this excellent work for this region, because that's where we are.
Right. There's also the Kyoto Nueve example
Right.
of doing a show that we're doing in partnership with other great peer theaters, the Alley Theater in Houston and the Huntington in Boston, that we're sharing a production because we have a new American play that we want to have a longer life, to not just run at any one of our
right.
theaters, but the fact that 3 different cities and audiences are going to get to see that show. So I think you'll see more of that as well. It won't be every show. We might commission something together with another theater, and when 2 theaters come together, you do give that playwright and different audiences the chance for a play.
I wanted to
go
ask a
on.
question about The Inheritance. It's a big hit play in London, which transferred to Broadway, and I believe is just opened.
It did
Yes.
just
And
open.
gotten incredible reviews on both sides of the Atlantic. And it was commissioned by Hartford Stage.
Yes.
Was it commissioned with the idea that Hartford Stage might perform it?
Of course. I mean,
Always.
always. When you commission, and there was tremendous interest from the leadership at Hartford Stage to produce it, for a series of reasons, really not having to do with Hartford Stage not wanting to do it, but having to do with the vagaries of directors' lives and producers' priorities. We didn't originate it, but it certainly, Hartford Stage has produced Matthew Lopez over the years. Commissioning Matthew Lopez on this project is something Hartford Stage is really proud of. And in a sense, what audiences have to do is come see who the next Matthew Lopez is. I mean, now you know, oh, I should go see The Inheritance in New York, but what you really need to think of is, what is the play that I've never heard of that's happening at Hartford Stage now or next season that is going to have the same trajectory as The Inheritance or of Anastasia or of Gentleman's Guide that I'm going to be the first person to see.
So for those of us like me who are not in the theater business, what does it mean to commission a play?
Do you want to?
You pick a playwright that the theater believes in, and you say, we're going to pay you a fee to write a play. Usually at whatever play you want to
Whatever
write.
thing.
Sometimes there might be some thematic or producing limitations put around that play.
Or
but
And is that something
community
you
engagement
two
pieces.
would set the parameters of,
Yes.
okay,
Yeah.
here's,
Yeah, but usually it's just, we believe in this playwright. We
Okay.
know that playwrights lead very vulnerable lives, and if you want great playwrights to write for the theater and not for television or movies, they've got to be able to sustain themselves through the writing of a play. So you commission it, and then do workshops and readings and help. Sometimes you help develop the play. Sometimes one theater commissions, another theater does the developmental work, and then you then do the first production.
And I would say a huge shout out to the Aetna New Voices program, because it was through Aetna's support of Hartford Stage that a series of really important commissions happened.
That's wonderful. That's
Including
wonderful.
Matthew Lopez's The Inheritance. So it's really, without that kind of corporate support, commissioning in this country
Yeah,
is
there's a lot of corporate and foundation support that
it's
really helps
up
you.
to corporations and foundations that help create these new American masterpieces.
so what's a timeline on a commissioning? So do you now,
No, I'm laughing because Hartford Stage right now has commissions, and I know you're out there, you wonderful writers, of plays that were commissioned 5-6 years ago and we still don't have a draft.
Really?
Right. It depends. It can wildly vary. Some commissions will have very strict timelines
Okay.
on them, and other commissions are like, we believe in you, write this play when you can.
Right.
Because I have to imagine, it shouldn't shock me that it's 5 years, because writers, I have to imagine, they go into funks. They have writer's block or vision
Well, or
block.
they get a television series, or
Right.
a play
Or
that they
something else
wrote
comes up.
is now getting a production,
They
so they have
don't
to stop
control their
writing their
lives,
current. They have to
right.
stop writing their current play because the play they wrote a while back is now in rehearsal, so they have to be in
Or
rehearsal.
been
So
purchased for the,
Okay.
for the
Alright.
movies.
right.
You know?
So you have to be very
Flexible.
when
do.
you enter into the world of
So
commissioning.
you can't go into a commissioning and say, well, we just commissioned this lady to write this play, so let's put that on for next November.
You
That's
could.
not
You
gonna
could,
happen.
but
You
you might
can.
not have something you want to produce.
Right.
But, you know, commissioning is really very interesting because it's a different kind of, it's not like book publishing.
No, it's research and development. It's the research and development arm of a theater.
That's
Just
right.
like a scientific institution might give a scientist a grant to
It's very
explore
similar.
To research,
a scientific
yep.
research
Could take
question.
months or years.
Right, how long?
That's exactly
It could
right.
be a
Okay.
whole lifetime of examining that one question, or maybe they'll do something very short
That's
and
right.
figure something out. So it is actually very similar.
So if you commission somebody to do something and they never do anything,
You don't pay them.
You
okay,
pay
so-
in installments.
Gotcha,
Right.
gotcha,
So
okay.
it works out. But
I'm learning
but-
so much today.
But to say it's really crucial to support new voices and the way that audiences do not realize how important they are to new work. Because when we premiere a new work, that playwright is in the house with us and they're listening to where audiences laugh, to where audiences gasp,
point.
to when audiences are
When they
bored.
seem lost.
When you can feel when a whole audience of 400 people is bored. It is one of the worst feelings, and you can feel it in a theater. And we change it so that it's not that the next night. You know,
Wow.
I mean, previews are so much fun. I invite everyone to come to an early preview and then late in the run to see a show. And
See the
how much it
differences.
changes. Yeah.
We need to take a break.
Yeah,
Pete's
we
giving
do.
us the signal.
Okay, it's time for us to acknowledge our underwriters that make ArtSpeak Radio possible and ArtSpeak on television. I'm Mark Auerbach with Patrick Berry, Amelia Ben-Susan, Cynthia Ryder. We are in the lobby of Hartford Stage where a Christmas Carol is currently taking place, and we'll be right back after a quick message.
Support for community radio on WSKB provided by Westfield Electroplating. Employing over 140 skilled platers, painters, and technicians, Westfield Electroplating was founded in 1946 and was the first company in the country to achieve National Aerospace and Defense Contractor Program accreditation, proudly maintaining that status for over a decade. Westfield Electroplating provides over 50 quality finishes to meet your corrosion, cosmetic, or performance needs. On the web at www.westfieldplating.com or 413-568-3716. Westfield Electroplating, putting the finishing touches on technology.
Underwriting for WSKB's community radio programming is brought to you in part by R. Levesque Associates. They are offering landscape architecture, civil engineering, environmental permitting, and land surveying. RLA is a second-generation company devoted to excellence in the planning and design of outdoor spaces. On the web at rlaland.com or at 40 School Street in Westfield.
Wednesday mornings from 6 till 8, it's Tina Gorman with Wake Up Wednesday.
Community Radio
89.5 WSKB. Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
Welcome back, everyone, to ArtSpeak on 89.5 FM WSKB and Westfield Community Programming on Channel 15. I'm Mark Auerbach with Patrick Berry today. Peter Coles is our chief engineer, and we're with Amelia Ben-Susan, the new artistic director of Hartford Stage, and Cynthia Ryder, the new managing director of Hartford Stage. And it's the beginning of a new era, but with an old favorite, A Christmas Carol, running through the 28th. And while we're talking, check out the Hartford Stage website, hartfordstage.org, or their Facebook page, because there's a lot of great background on A Christmas Carol and some cool videos and things that you'll want to see.
The playbill for Christmas Carol, I love it. It's my three favorite words. Bah humbug. My kids, I play up the Scrooge thing at my house.
Very nice.
And my three favorite. I'd love to get a T-shirt, just bah hum.
We will.
It's
We'll
perfect.
see what we
can
can
do
that for
for
you.
you.
Yeah.
But it's wonderful that you guys continue for 22 years. The classic. There's my phone ringing.
No, I think it's become a community tradition
That's
in the
right.
area.
And kids grow up playing, right? They're aging into different roles. I mean, speaking to Rachel Alderman, our wonderful,
exactly.
director of Michael Wilson's production, is that kids look forward to growing into another role when they start young. And then this company has been together for so many years. So many of them have been part of this, that there's graduation ceremonies for the kids who age out, retirement parties for folks who might be leaving the production. It's a big community event.
One of the things that we talked about on our last show with Rachel was the partnership with the University of Hartford, the youth ensemble. That, I don't know if that's unique to you guys to utilize area students, but that is such a wonderful opportunity for the education of young students to learn about theater from such a young age. And again, it's not
crucial.
Community theater. This is a professional environment that they're able to participate in this and see what it's really about.
Professional theater and community are crucial to link, right? And that is, Christmas Carol is a wonderful example of getting this whole region engaged in the importance of live theater. Because we will not have live theater if we don't have young people coming to
So the
live
more you can
theater.
expose them to it.
So the university connection is crucial to us, and you will see some of those University of Hartford seniors in other productions the rest of this season. So I won't tell you, which ones. You have to come see them all and figure out the university students who are really professional.
These kids come to a performance
Right.
and they get the theater bug,
Right.
and their parents bring them to something else,
Right.
hopefully, and then they get interested in doing it. What was the show or the first thing that you saw that said, I got to do
We
theater?
asked those guys last week, so let's see.
Okay, so I'm like 4 years old when I catch the plague, as it were, this joyous bug. As you said, I grew up in Mexico City, and there was a small theater company for children called El Zapatero Remendón, which means the shoemaker who fixes things. And he had a huge plastic hammer. Do you know one of those like accordion, big sort of things? And he'd go around and bop us on the head, and we were, first I would watch him perform, and then I was desperate to be in them. And that's what I remember doing that, and then just never leaving the theater. There's a line from Bernard Hughes's play called Da, an old play that no one will know.
I know that play.
Right, but
Of course you do.
of course
I
you
saw
do.
that play on Broadway.
With Barnard, Barney Hughes was in it. Did not write it. But he says in there, he's an actor, and there's a line about how when he first went to the theater as a child, he thought it was magic, and then he went backstage, and that was heaven. And that was very much my experience.
That's actually a very good description.
It's magic to be in the house, but the minute I got to be backstage, I felt like I was home. And I had thought, like many, the entry point, and I'll segue to Cynthia's journey, but the entry point for many people in the theater is acting, because that's what you see.
Right.
And that looks like the most fun. And then why I encourage people to do our open tech and to come watch rehearsals and to do backstage tours is then you realize, oh, there are so many extraordinary ways to participate.
So it's interesting you talk about that magic. So in the show we did last week with the folks from Christmas Carol, John Andrew, I think what did he say? He was 3 or 4 years old, and he saw somebody walk off the stage in one direction, and they appeared on the other side. And he's, how did that happen?
I love
it's the
that stuff.
magic.
And the magic of, I still get goosebumps when the house lights go out and the show's about to start. That to me is still a moment of magic and optimism and transformation. Something's going to happen. I'm going to be told a story. What's better than being told a story?
By a live human being
Yeah,
right there.
yeah.
And the one thing I love about this theater is you're so close.
It's so intimate, no matter where you sit.
Exactly. And how many seats is it again?
485.
Okay, so think about that for a month.
But there's not a
485, and
bad seat in the house.
And it's a 3/4 round, right? Or 2/3 around?
It's called, right, it's a 3/4 thrust.
Okay.
Right? I mean,
So
so you've got a
you're-
place to have wonderful visual effects.
You're really
and
close.
But
You
always
joke
close.
there's no bad seat in the house. No, there really is no bad
no, I
seat
know.
in this theater. It's wonderful to come see a show here.
Yeah.
But so that's my story. 4 years old in Mexico City, and then I ended up this is where we have a connection, is
Yes.
that it was through the JCC that I started directing, because the JCC in Mexico City had like a theater group on Sundays for kids, and I started just adapting books into plays and directing them.
Because you like telling people what to do.
It is part of a director's role. The essence of the storytelling is maybe also part of what we do. But yeah, I'm the oldest of. I'm the oldest in the family. No
Of your
surprise.
siblings?
Yeah,
That's funny.
exactly. But you
Yeah.
had a similar.
So my mother, when I was 6 years old, saw that there was a creative dramatics class at the Jewish Community Center, and so signed me
That
up.
JCC is a great
So
place.
I
it's a
am
great,
telling you.
forever grateful for this wonderful
we
teacher.
say as we do the Christmas Carol.
That's right.
Happy Hanukkah.
So she signed me up, and I took drama classes from this remarkable woman named Flora Burke for probably 8 or 9 years, every Saturday for an hour. It wasn't really until I got into maybe junior high school that I actually was in plays. I mean, I made up plays in my backyard in the
Right.
summer with neighbors. You know, I certainly did a lot of that. And then I had an extraordinary drama teacher in high school. So when you think
And
of
that makes
teachers,
a world of difference.
So
Ma-
did I.
Influential
shout
time
out
of
to
life.
Max Brown,
Walter Stewart.
in Kansas City, who really believed in his students, and we did very challenging work. Right? He did not underestimate the intellectual and passion of this group of just high school kids, and we did Under Milkwood, we did all kind, and we did The Music Man, and we
Right.
did
That's
You Can't Take It
typical,
With
yep.
You, right? But we did really wonderful work, and so that kind of even opened up even more my love of storytelling.
Which is part of what we
in high
really
school.
value about Hartford Stage's education outreach, because we know that our own experiences,
Mm-hmm.
right? I once thanked my mother for taking me to the theater as a 4-year-old, and she said, "Oh, I needed something to get you out of the house." So you never
Yes.
know. I mean, a lifelong passion and calling
The
was
two of you looked at
developed.
it differently.
You
She
know,
needed a break.
She needed a break,
you got a career
and I
out
got
of
a
it.
career.
That's
Exactly.
funny.
But our education program serves 20,000 students in the state of Connecticut, more than all other Connecticut theaters combined, and it's hugely important because it does give you a way of experiencing yourself and through a totally different lens, and it's also. You know, theater, and this is not my line, but it's one I love, is that theater is the gym for the empathy muscles. And in order to really develop a strong sense of empathy, which we need so much in our culture right now,
Right.
a theater storytelling, to put yourself in other people's shoes.
It's a wonderful escape.
It's and a wonderful reconnecting. So you're both escaping your own experience, but you're reconnecting with deeper parts of your soul, perhaps.
Both of you and your predecessors have tried to make Hartford Stage more accessible. There's the sensory special performances there, and I guess for the last play, there was babysitting for young
We're going to
parents.
start. So we have a new babysitting initiative. You're going to see it for the rest of this season. The information will be on our webpage with our partnership with Christ Church Cathedral across the street. So there's free babysitting for one performance for each
every
production.
show.
So each production has a performance with free babysitting. We're piloting this year. It could grow if people want to use it, so come use it. That is a way of making the theater more accessible. We're also, this is airing right after, we have a Spanish reading of A Christmas Carol in this lobby, upstairs in our upper lobby. We will have read A Christmas Carol in Spanish and in hopes of really jump-starting a bilingual, super titles eventually, open captioned approach to our productions as well. It's all about making sure that everyone feels welcome here.
To Mark's point, the Christmas Carol has a sensory-friendly
Yes.
performance, and I see in the playbill that you also have an open caption performance and an audio described performance. What are those?
So the audio described in open captioning has to do with patrons who might be hard of hearing, right, or be challenged in some ways around listening.
Okay.
And so then the captioning gives them a way to experience.
So is there an ASL person to the side of the stage, American Sign Language, to sign the play?
So there's a variety of ways.
Okay.
In different ways. Sometimes we put up look like large TV screens. So
Okay.
just like you could turn on captioning on your
Okay.
television,
You do that on the play.
there's captioning
Oh,
for
okay.
the play. Audio described can come through the listening system.
Gotcha.
So at any performance, you can get a hearing enhancement
Right.
through those. But you actually get audio descriptions then.
Of what? Of
um,
what?
and
So
there-
if your sight is challenged, you're hearing described what's happening visually
Gotcha.
on stage.
Okay.
So we're trying to, theater has always been the place for dialogue in a community, right?
Mm-hmm.
The history of the theater is a history of confronting its communities, creating shared meeting space, and sort of exploring questions that are affecting a society, and we want to make sure everyone's part of that conversation.
Right. Now, are those 2 or 3 things, are they unique to Hartford Stage, or do you see theaters across the country embracing that
That's
to
pretty
generate?
common now.
Yeah.
We're all, and theaters across this country, we're all in touch with each other, right? It's a bit of it's a community of people with similar goals, and as Cynthia was describing, our co-production with the Alley and the Huntington, and we hopefully will have co-productions next season. But these kinds of initiatives, we're helping each other grow as a culture. I
Right,
think.
and as technology changes, some of that will change, right? What
Right.
we're capable of doing, how much of it, how often, what becomes more expensive, what
Right.
actually gets more affordable so you can do it more often. So I think we're all trying to stay on top of, obviously the artists work so hard, we pick these stories, we only get to pick 7 or 8 a year. We
Right.
want as many people to experience them as possible. And if somebody has an obstacle to that, we're trying to figure
That's
out
right.
how do we overcome that obstacle and that might be audio description,
So
might be something else.
You talked about, you're in communication with theaters. I mean, do you share best practices? There might be a theater in, Colorado that says, hey, we just tried this thing, great reaction.
Oh, absolutely. And part of what's so great about Hartford Stage's stature in the country is that we have so many open conversations with
Yes.
so many different artistic directors, managing directors, and artists who work at different theaters. So when Quixote Nuevo opened, or right before it opened, I sat with all our guest artists and said, so tell me, what's really good that we do here, and what do other people do better? How can
Right.
we improve your experience as a guest artist? Because our community is the Hartford community, it's the national artistic community, it's the playwrights across the country. So, but you were going to say
I was going
something.
to say, Hartford Stage and the regional theater movement was one of the earliest.
It was 1963.
Yeah, and it survived and thrived at sometimes, not thrived at others, but it's still here after all these years.
Yeah,
Where so
it's-
many other regional theaters that tried around the same time just didn't make it. What does Hartford provide to that longevity? I know there's community support from subscribers, and there are corporations and
I
foundations.
think this community's dedication to this theater is extraordinary, don't you? I
Yes.
mean, our board is so dedicated, and we have in some cases generations of people on the board of one family, and ditto with donors and subscribers. I mean, as I meet people, I hear more and more my father was a founding member, or my mother brought me here as a kid, and now I bring my kids. I think this region has made this theater what it is with its commitment.
Right.
to its existence.
Every theater struggles, though, to say that you are never completely on solid footing,
That's
right? And I think when you have a community that believes in its theater or its arts and culture organization, it takes a constant vigilance of supporting it. So the people who have been subscribers that we've been meeting, that have been subscribers since the beginning or since the 70s, the corporate community really saying, we really know that we have a role to play in helping arts and culture thrive. One of the reasons I think Hartford Stage did make it was the strength of the corporate community here through the 60s, 70s, 80s, and that corporate community and landscape is changing all the time, right? So we have to figure out how to engage and really bring value. Your political leadership, from a state level to a city level to a neighborhood block. I mean, we're big fans of the Hartford Business Improvement District, of the Chamber, of all the organizations of iQuilt that are looking at how, because those investments that you make in something as simple as sidewalks or downtown beautification or public safety.
Make it easier for people to get to the venue.
That's right.
Yeah, how quickly can they get here? How easily can they park? But also employees wanting to come. You have a rich foundation community here too, rich being involved and in terms of how they want to support arts and culture and understanding that it can be really vital to the quality of life of a city. And all of those pieces have to work together. It's not any one. Very few theaters survive on one patron.
Right.
Say, if you do, you're really vulnerable, right? So we're constantly trying to diversify who's coming to see the work, who are participating in the classes, and who is our donor base, because we live on a business model that is both earned revenue from ticket sales, but equally as much for Hartford Stage are the people who give a donation to support the work.
And civic involvement.
Huge. I mean, we're
Really
very
important.
involved now with Capital Community College and Christ Church Cathedral. I'm pointing at where these institutions are.
But you can see both of them from where you sit.
I see both those institutions from where I sit, and they both have galvanizing leaders who are really committed to the city in a way that we are, and how we change, how we just enrich.
And each of
the
those
experience of
leaders
being in this
have a
neighborhood.
vested interest in this street and
That's
this neighborhood.
exactly right.
And we
So
have
if
a
you
vested
survive-
interest in them.
Exactly.
Same. It's a very reciprocal. How do we really? I mean, the babysitting example
That's a
is I can
wonderful
look
idea.
right
It's great,
outside.
yeah.
That doorway is the doorway to where we babysit at Christ Church
You're a
Cathedral.
minute from your seats.
So one of the advantages we have, just logistically, you said about do we learn from other theaters? There are other theaters that have tried to provide classes or childcare. Sometimes it doesn't work, but we have this incredible partner literally
Across.
steps away that we hope that'll make it possible, because there are people who want to come to the theater, but the added obstacle of I have to get a babysitter
Exactly.
can say, well, maybe I'll only go to one show this year. We would like them to come see as
Everyone.
many shows as they are interested in seeing.
To get a subscription to the day when we have babysitting, which we'll announce, so you can just go, oh, great, I know I don't have to get a
Right.
babysitter for those days. And with Capital Community College, we have all these young people who are working to get ahead in their lives.
Yep.
And we have great relationships with them. Some of our plays, a third of their entire student body sees at reduced cost. So that's another way of getting sort of different generations in our building.
Another great program that we have is with the
Sorry,
Hartford.
we're both, you can wind
have
us
this-
both
The
up.
Wind us up and let us go.
So,
Go ahead.
When I told somebody that attends Hartford Stage that we were going to come down here and do a couple of shows, they said, wow, this new artistic leadership and managing leadership, you can actually talk to them. They're around at performances, and you can make suggestions and things like that.
Right now's the time for suggestions. We're planning next season.
yeah, come visit us.
So,
Don't
what
say
have
that.
you
They're
learned-
going to
We
line
don't
up.
promise that we'll do it, but we like the
We do
suggestions.
want to hear from people.
What have you learned about Hartford since you arrived that is different than your preconception of coming here? And what are people telling you? Are they offering ideas? Are they happy about Hartford Stage? Are they enthusiasts?
I think in general, I've been amazed by the enthusiasm around this theater and our appointments. People have been incredibly positive about it. I think what I've learned that I didn't expect, even having directed here a few times and having come and gone since January, is the small town feeling of Hartford. It it feels, I've lived in New York, I've lived in Boston, I've lived in Dallas. You know, theater folk, we're circus people.
Yes.
We live in many places and work in even more. But the feeling of kind of this community being connected to each other, being aware of each other, and the number of years that people then commit to being in this community.
Well, I
has
think that
been very
starts
moving.
with your corporations that are located here too. I think they
that's
instill in their
interesting.
people, you know, a quality way of life here, and the theaters add to that quality
There's
of
no
life.
question. Yeah. What were you going to say?
I was going to say that, you know, you talk about 6 degrees of separation. You
Right.
feel about 1 degree of separation
Yeah.
here. That
Yeah,
there's
it could
this
be good and bad.
Right. Yes, good and bad. But in terms of how you feel like the possibility for Hartford Stage to even have greater success is really maybe just 1 phone call away, right? Or 1 meeting, or you're not.
And someone you know knows someone who knows the person you need to reach.
Right.
I mean, for me, just a personal, you know, a thrill still, given my life in New York and in Boston specifically, is that the mayor and his wife come to all our openings, and that
Nice.
we have conversations with our mayor and his extraordinary wife. So to sit with Luke and Sarah Bronin at an event, to see them at the public library gala, to see them at our openings, to talk about what plays they've seen, the degree of conversation and dialogue you can have in this region about the work on the stage is extraordinary and really a joy.
Yeah, I think we're both living downtown
Yeah.
as well, and I live kind of right down by the library, and the library has been an extraordinary partner with us. We have a partnership with them where if you have a Hartford Public Library card, you can get a free ticket.
You get a pair of
every
tickets.
branch has free tickets to every performance. So
With your library card.
With your library
So
card.
if you have a Hartford Public Library card.
Right, go to your
you-
branch, see your local librarian.
And get tickets to
and
But
any
better
show.
yet, if you don't have a card,
Go get
Get
your
one,
go
that's
get your
right.
card and
I like the
come.
way you think.
But one of the surprises for me, just personally, is how much I see just walking from my apartment. I walk by the courthouse, the library, the Wadsworth, right?
You get more
all these
steps than I
institutions.
do.
Yeah.
Right, these incredible institutions. I saw all these families coming out of the library one night just before Halloween, and they had done a special "Bring Your Young Ones," and
Wow,
they
nice.
had a special
That's great.
reading. So that part has been a great. Maybe not surprise, but how much of that is happening that always doesn't get a lot of promotion or attention. But there's a lot of quiet, wonderful work going on at our partner organizations. The Mark Twain House has been an incredibly great partner. Real Artways, incredible, like that, just both personally and the kinds of things that we've done together.
So that's a surprise. A
Okay,
wonderful one.
we need to take another break. We've got underwriters to acknowledge. This has really been
That's it,
so
Mark.
much fun.
We're done.
We're done?
We've hit our hour.
Well, that's the fastest hour.
Exactly.
So, again, thanks to Hartford Stage, Teresa McNaughton, for arranging everything here today. It's been such a pleasure to meet Melia Ben-Susan and Cynthia Richard from Ryder, sorry.
No, that's all right.
From Hartford Stage, the new leadership here. If you want more information about
Come
Hartford
see them.
Stage,
They're available.
Yes, just come.
they're here.
Write us.
hartfordstage.org or go to Facebook. And again, thank you so much for hosting us
thank you,
here.
thank
It's
you. Wonderful
We're,
been
we're
really a
so
treat.
glad to have you here. And
Our
I
pleasure.
hope people get to see Christmas Carol this last week of its run and come join us for the rest of the season, because it's going to be a lot of great stories.
Yeah, there's a lot of shows, and each one's very different.
Absolutely.
Great.
So thanks to all. Happy holidays, and
Happy
thanks to our
Hanukkah.
producer, Peter Coles, and Patrick
A
Barry.
whole bunch of holidays.
Exactly. Thank you.
I hope Lily's happy to see me. Be honest, Vlad Popov. How could she not be? I may have gotten fatter, but maybe that won't matter. Bottom line, I'll win her. We'll do some reminiscing. She'll see what she's been missing over wine and dinner. And though I know I've grown a tiny bit gray, some women say I look distinguished this way. I'll bow as if I'm still a frisky young pup. Let's hope that I can straighten up. If she says no, we'll lay low and we'll go from there.
Hand shaking, heart thundering, meet the royal mess. Start
grip and take a deep breath, and soon we'll know what's what. Put on our show, rewards will flow, and we'll go from there. And we'll go from there. Oh, what a lovely ride, and what a lovely day for a totally illegal, lovely getaway. I've been shake and shake, but bottom line, I'll win her. We'll do some pranks, don't smile. She'll see what she's meant to say. Why did I say yes? And dinner and the ice chest, a tiny big bread. Some women say I just keep it quick and take it away. A vow is safe and still risky on top. Let's hope that I can straighten up, but no more doubt. No time to spare.
We're nearly out.
So let's prepare. We're on our way to who knows where, and we'll go